Pizza and Grill, thanks to Marcus Ambrose, who you just heard there talking about his pole, but he kind of faded rather quickly. Lots of great stories from Sonoma, and of course the big story today about Matt Kenseth leaving Roush Fenway, and nobody is better connected than the senior writer for FoxSports.com, Lee Spencer, joins us. Hi, Lee. How you doing?
I'm great. How's it going, guys?
Hey, it's going terrific. We haven't talked to you in a long time. Lots of news out there. Like we said, we'll go with the biggest elephant in the room right at the moment. That's Matt Kenseth leaving. Are you surprised by this at all, and where do you foresee him ending up?
Well, the rumor started, a couple of months back that he might be somebody that could be on short list. I mean, it would take a big paycheck to get him to leave Roush Racing, but given all the attention Carl Edwards got last season, I'm not surprised that Matt wanted to go someplace where he might be considered number one.
And that place that he could be considered number one might be?
That is the 20 car at Joe Gibbs Racing.
Okay, that's what I had kind of thrown out there a little bit. And where does that leave Joey Logano?
I think that might leave Joey Logano with a fourth car, possibly with sponsorship from Dollar General. They've been very happy with their association with Joey on the nationwide side, and on what's the bang for the buck that they've gotten at Gibbs on the Cup side. So, JD Gibbs told me on Sunday that they have the infrastructure to expand to a fourth team, and certainly there are very few guys that would knock Joey out of that job. I mean, we keep hearing Carl Edwards. They made a hard run for Carl Edwards last year, and Home Depot didn't want to ante up all the money. That being said, at the end of the day, he stayed put. He stayed with his deal with Ford. And, as I wrote on Monday, there was no way that Roush was going to go through this negotiation process again, basically be held hostage by a driver that, save me for staying here or, pay my demands or I'm gone. And, that's basically what it broke down to. So, they got Carl Edwards. Ford kicked in a ton of money. And I think that there was a little animosity there between the two veteran, drivers at Roush Racing who, really were the foundation of that place. I mean, Matt won the first championship in 2003 for Jack on the Cup side. Greg Biffle won championships in nationwide in trucks. They've both been up at the top of the point standings for most of this season, and it had been difficult over the course of time trying to get sponsorship for that 17 car.
Lee, we'd heard we were talking to Lee Spencer from FoxSports.com. Lee, we'd heard rumbles of, I guess, discord in that Roush Fenway team over in the past when. I remember Greg Biffle saying he wasn't getting the best stuff one year when Carl was in the chase, and I mean, is that kind of thing happening there? I mean, there is definitely it looks to me, looking at those top three teams, there's definitely more sponsorship on the 99 and the 99 and the 16, than there is on the 17. How much does that play into it?
It's not from an effort of trying. It's just been, it's been a really tough couple of years on the sponsorship side. Some people are more savvy at bringing in new leagues and maximizing their potential at that game. You look at Joe Gibbs Racing, you look at Hendrick Motorsports. You had two juggernauts in the sport, Roush Fenway Racing and Richard Childress Racing, that both went from 4 cars to 3 for this season. It was a tough transition for Roush, who at one point had 5 cars, 5 cars in the chase. I mean, think about that. Think about what his accomplishment was, back in the heyday of NASCAR when everything was running well and sponsorships were plentiful. And, now it's been a struggle to get that organization back on track. And, you kind of hate it because, I mean, Jack's such a great guy. He's a likable guy, but that organization has been plagued with sponsorship relation woes for a long time, and it's caught up with them. I mean, I don't know if that's one of the reasons that Matt chose the league, that he thought he might get, more attention if he was better funded someplace else. But, when you've been someplace for 14 years and maybe you don't feel like you're as loved as you once were, or you're as valuable to the company as you once were, I mean, race car drivers have huge egos. I mean, that's not as bad as a lot of these guys. And, you know, for him to be able to go in and sit with guys like Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, you know, who have both at times been emotionally fragile, you've never seen that out of Matt. You know, Matt comes to the track. He does his job. He's, you know, a great father to his son and 2 daughters. He's a great husband to Katie. I mean, you know, he's an all-around awesome guy. And you know, you just kind of wonder at what point do you say, hey, you know, I want to be the guy wherever I go. I want to be that guy. I'm a NASCAR champion, and I really deserve that kind of status.
Matt leads the points right now as we go into Kentucky this week. There's a lot of season left, and I'm assuming that he's going to complete the season with Roush Fenway Racing.
Absolutely.
How much of a problem will that cause, do you think?
Yeah, you know, I really don't think it was. It will, and I'll tell you why. You know, people have a lot of respect for Matt Kenseth. His team has a lot of respect for Matt Kenseth. He's good to his guys, and, you know, that goes a long way with, you know, trying to keep an organization motivated. And, you know, certainly Matt's the type of guy that, you know, he will keep that motivation going. You know, you have to look back at his history. Before he was with Roush Racing, he drove for Robbie Reiser, their family-owned team. And, you know, Robbie's still the general manager over at Roush. He's going to make sure his driver, you know, his favorite driver, and you have to say he is because they've been together for so long, that he's going to get what's necessary. And, you know, whoever has the best shot at winning the championship, when it comes down to chase time, that's who they're going to get behind. They're going to put all their eggs into that basket, and you can better believe if it's Matt, if it's Greg, if it's Carl, whichever Roush car has the best opportunity to win, whichever Ford driver has the best opportunity to win, the resources are going to be behind that team.
We're talking with Lee Spencer from FoxSports.com. You bring up the name of Robbie Reiser. Is there any incentive for Robbie Reiser to move along with, I don't want to call him his best friend, but the guy that he spent so many years with on top of the pit box, to go over to Gibbs to reprise that role?
I really doubt it, and I'll tell you why. Robbie's had some health issues. He's got 2 young boys at home. I think it really makes a difference where his priorities are. He's had a really good career at Roush Fenway Racing, and I would be really surprised if Robbie ever left. You know, you ask the question, who does become Matt Kenseth's crew chief? You know, that's a curious situation. I mean, Jason Ratcliffe is doing exceptionally well with Joey Logano. You know, will they continue on, or, you know, will something new come along? I think it's really premature to see. But, you know, Matt's the kind of guy that can get along with anybody, but he's also going to have to be motivated. I mean, come on, he is 40 years old.
All right, second biggest elephant in the room right now is the great run that Kurt Busch had at Sonoma after all the troubles he's had over the last few weeks. He called himself Team Tiger Blood. I see you call it Team Red Solo Cup. I like that as well. Is Kurt back on the straight and narrow? Is he getting to a position where he can find a top-level Cup ride in 2013?
He's going to have to keep his nose clean from here on out. I talked to Finch at length at Michigan, and Finch is one that came up with the Tiger Blood, you know, connotation, and I thought that was kind of funny because, you know, Finch doesn't hold back. Finch was the first guy, and maybe the only guy I know who ever had a stripper pole up in his transporter. So, you know, this guy, he beats to a little different drum than your average Cup owner, right? So he's put up with a lot from Kurt, and you know, Kurt has really wanted to make the best out of this situation. I will tell you, you would be hard-pressed to find a group of guys, and there's only 11 guys on that team. It's a low-budget, you know, group of a race team. You'll be hard-pressed to find a group that is as dedicated to their driver as the Phoenix Racing crew is to Kurt Busch, because they know they have a wheelman behind their car. They've never had that before. And, you know, to be a racer, you know, you've got to be a racer to be the type of guy that gets involved with an organization that only has 11 guys. You know, you're pulling double duty, double shift. You're working 7 days a week. There are no off days for Phoenix Racing. So when you take that you build in the Kurt factor. They've got a real driver behind the wheel, and they're going to support that guy to the bitter end. Now, that being said, Kurt's going to have to mind his P's and Q's from here on out to really be taken seriously for that next ride. He had been up for a ride with Richard Childress Racing in May. There was talk that he would jump into the 31 car, but, Richard Childress, he was just beside himself at Dover Sunday morning, asking me what was he thinking, because it's really hard to go to a conservative sponsor, like Caterpillar that's based in the Midwest and say, got this fabulous driver, he's going to win races, he could win championships. Oh, yes, but, he has problems controlling his temper. So you have to find that balance, and, Kurt worked really hard on it. The Kurt that we saw on Sunday is a Kurt who kept his act together. And when the afternoon was over, he won over people in that media center. The West Coast media, they don't go to a lot of races. You might see them down at California Speedway, sometimes Phoenix, maybe Las Vegas, but you don't see them on the tour like you did the national press. And, at the end of Kurt's media session in the post-race, people were in there clapping for him. Now, that's, unacceptable in most press boxes. It's one of the first rules you learn about being in a press box. You don't cheer. You're not a fan. You're in there to be a journalist. But, for whatever reason, there were people in there clapping at the end of Kurt's session, and he won them over with his raw emotion and his honesty. And, that's the kind of Kurt that we see for the rest of this season. Team owners will probably be lining up for him.
Some of the reports were, as far as Kurt Busch goes, with that after the second incident was that Finch went to the guys in the team and asked them whether or not they should keep Kurt on, and it sounded like there was a 11-0 vote to keep Kurt in that car, and it would seem to me that maybe that was the turning point for Kurt to decide that he needed to keep his act together and to give his all to these guys.
But I will tell you, talk to any crew chief in the garage, and they will tell you what a team player he is and how great Kurt Busch treats his guys. You had a situation, we were there waiting for Kurt to show up after the race, and, there was that kind of moment of, okay, is he going to make it? Is he going to be comfortable doing this, or is he just going to pay the $500 fine for, not showing up for media availability and take it to the house, because if after the last couple of weeks, that's one of the things that Finch recommended, just go ahead, go to the house and be done with it. Keep a headache. But he composed himself. He came up. He parked the car. He had, took time to cool down. He was frustrated. He couldn't get his helmet off. Then Steve Addington, his ex-crew chief, who's now Tony Stewart's crew chief, came over and talked to him. And I got to tell you that it was really something to behold because, you could just see it was almost like a reception line for Kurt Busch for the different people that came up. Every guy on Phoenix Racing came up and gave him a hug. I mean, it was just, it was great to see and a real morale boost for Kurt Busch in the 51 car.
Lee, I've got about 2 minutes left to go, and I can't, let you go without talking about Clint Bowyer and the race that he had and the, quote, resurgence of Michael Waltrip Racing or the insurgence, I guess, maybe not resurgence because they really haven't done a whole heck of a lot. But is Clint kind of the guy that's bringing this race team together as well?
I think, Clint is such a fun guy. Clint's a different guy.
Yeah.
Clint admits that he admits he has ADD. Clint admits that he likes to party.
Yeah.
Clint's a guy that worked at a tire shop, before he was discovered in the cornfields of Kansas. And it's just, one of those deals where he's an old-time driver that, kind of embodies that whole sentiment. I may have lost a race, but I never lost a party.
Right.
And, guys can get behind that because they know he's there to have a good time. And I will tell you, the happiest person on Sunday was Brian Patty, who was Juan Pablo Montoya's former crew chief and took a beating from Juan over the years as far as, how he treated, how Juan was to Brian. And, you know, when they broke up right before Indy last year, Brian went on sabbatical. He'd send me pictures, you know, he'd send me texts with pictures of his honeydew list, the things he had done around the house, you know, the time he would tell me about time he's spending with his kids. I mean, he was just having a great time. He took such pleasure out of kicking Juan Pablo's butt on Sunday that now he's looking forward to New Hampshire, to Daytona, and when he mentioned Indy, the guy had such a maniacal laugh and smile on his face that it was like he is driven. He's driven by revenge. And, you know, quite frankly, if that's what drives you and that motivates you to go out there and beat 42 guys every week, then, you know, God bless him because he's going to do it.
Well, that's kind of funny you say that. We had Michael McDowell on the show earlier. We asked him about the incident with Villeneuve and Danica, and Michael McDowell, who is, you know, the nicest guy in the world, said there's probably 6 or 7 guys out there that would have some sort of revenge to play on Jacques Villeneuve.
Not just Danica.
Not just Danica. And you could hear in his voice that Michael McDowell may have been one of those guys as well. So revenge does run sweet.
Because we asked, you know, we were on the golf course on Saturday and we missed the nationwide race, so we said, what happened to Danica? And there was a new verb. She got Villeneuve.
I think that says it all.
Yeah, add that to your racing terms for future reference.
There we go.
We've got it written down. As always, thanks so much, Lee. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again in the future.
You guys take care. See you soon.
Thanks, Lee. Lee Spencer, FoxSports.com, one of the best, and that's a awesome interview there.
Villeneuve. Villeneuve.